You know that feeling of opening a time capsule? Well, that's pretty much what we're doing today. We're going on an archival expedition, digging into a 50-year-old vision for a wild place, a dream that was put down on paper way back in 1972. So, let's jump in. To get us in the right headspace for this journey, I want to start with some words that feel just as timeless as the landscape we're about to explore. These lines really set the tone for where we're going. A place of rivers, hills, and just keeping on. And this is it. This is our map. It's our guide for this whole thing, a proposal typed up in 1972, the result of a massive effort by the Alberta Wilderness Association. You can almost feel the history coming off the page. This document right here, it's the heart of our entire story. All right, so let's start the expedition. First stop, understanding the vision. What was this proposal actually all about? What were they trying to protect and why? Okay, so let's get our bearings. Here's where we are on the map. This whole shaded area, that's the proposed Elbow Sheep Wilderness. We're talking a huge chunk of the Rocky Mountain Front Ranges. And get this, it's just a stone's throw from the growing city of Calgary. And the sheer scale of this vision, wow. We're talking 560 square miles. To give you some perspective, at the time, that was something like 6% of Alberta's entire designated forest reserve. So yeah, this was no little weekend park. This was a massive, grand statement. So we've got the what and the where down. But let's dig a little deeper into the why, right? What was the big idea driving this whole thing? When they used the word wilderness, what did that really mean to them? And what's really interesting is how practical the proposal was. They laid out this super clear, functional definition. Wilderness is a place that still feels ancient, primeval, a place you can go for solitude and just experience the land on its own terms. But it wasn't just dry and practical. They totally understood the poetry of it, too. I mean, check out this quote from the document itself. It's just perfect. It takes the idea from just being about land use and turns it into this really profound philosophy. The idea that we're just visitors here. We don't own the place. Of course, even back in 1972, this land was far from untouched. It was a landscape that already had so many layers of deep human history. So let's do that now. Let's start peeling back some of those layers. This timeline really gives you a sense of the different waves of people who came through. I mean, long before anyone else, this was the traditional territory of the Stoney people. Then you have the explorers show up, the surveyors, the ranchers, the miners, and every single one of them left their mark, adding to the story of this place. And what's so cool is that the proposal itself actually documents some of these incredible stories. Like this one from around 1855, it's this super dramatic account of a skirmish between the Stoney and Blackfoot peoples. And at the center of it all is this amazing, brave old woman whose quick thinking basically saved her people. That story is literally woven right into the fabric of this landscape. And the history isn't just documented fact. There's folklore, too. The famous legend of the Lost Lemon Mine, that classic story of gold, greed, and mystery. Its roots are right here in these mountains. It just adds this whole other fascinating human layer to this wild place. So, bottom line, the land has a deep, rich human story. But the main point of the whole proposal, that was about protecting the non-human inhabitants. So let's shift gears and look at the absolutely incredible biodiversity of the Elbow Sheep area. I mean, we're talking about your classic Rocky Mountain ecosystem. This place was and still is home to this amazing lineup of large mammals. The kind of wildlife that just defines the North American West. And the proposal, it carefully inventoried all of them. And this wasn't just some casual checklist. I mean, look at this. This is incredible. The researchers actually painstakingly mapped out the seasonal movements of elk and bighorn sheep. These are hand-drawn maps showing where the animals spent their winters, where they migrated in the spring. This was serious, dedicated, boots-on-the-ground fieldwork. And it wasn't just about the big animals either. The proposal paints this beautiful, vivid picture of the plant life. You've got everything from these deep pine forests on the slopes to spectacular alpine meadows that would just explode with wildflowers like Indian paintbrush and glacier lilies in the summer. A true mosaic of life. So, let's recap. We've got this incredible vision for a protected wilderness. It's rich with history, it's bursting with life, but there's always a but, right? It existed in a world with a lot of competing interests, and this is where we get to the central conflict of the story, the intense pressures this landscape was under back in 1972.
So let's do this. Let's actually overlay some of the maps from the proposal to see exactly what they were up against. Okay, layer 1, cattle grazing. As you can see, huge chunks of the proposed area were already carved up into grazing allotments.
Okay, now let's add layer 2 on top of that, resource extraction. This map shows active mineral claims and, this is a big one, all these extensive coal leases sitting right inside the proposed wilderness boundaries. And then there's the third layer. Just look at how much of the map this covers. These are the petroleum and natural gas leases. By 1972, pretty much the entire landscape was already spoken for by the oil and gas industry. And finally, a fourth layer of pressure, timber. This map shows all the areas with mature forests that were slated for logging. So, you see, the vision for wilderness was being laid over a landscape that was already heavily booked up for industrial use. So when you see all that pressure, you have to wonder, right? What happened? Well, the proposal was submitted, but the government at the time didn't act on it. And that brings up a really big question, doesn't it? What is the legacy of a 50-year-old idea, especially one that doesn't win right away? Let's end where we began, with that timeless feeling. That poem reminds us of nature's cycles, its resilience, and maybe the real value of an idea like this isn't just in its immediate victory, but in the hope and the vision it keeps alive for the future. Because when you get right down to it, the mountains are still there, the rivers still run, and that vision, the one laid out in this old document from 1972, it's not just a dusty historical artifact. It's the very foundation of the conversation that is still happening today in the ongoing efforts to protect these wild and beautiful places.